Have you ever felt invisible in your own home? Like you could vanish and nobody would even notice? That's exactly what happened to me. But here's the twist: when I finally did disappear, everyone noticed. And by then, it was too late. Let me tell you my story. I remember that terrible dinner like it was yesterday. The fancy plates clinked together, soft music played in the background, and delicious smells filled the air from the chicken I'd cooked all day. But nobody thanked me. Nobody even saw me. My son's wife, Olivia, had invited her parents over. Again. She forgot to tell me. Again. And when her mother looked at me with a strange smile and asked who I was, Olivia laughed and said something that broke my heart into a million pieces. "Oh, that's Margaret. She's like our housekeeper. She keeps everything running smoothly." Everyone laughed. Even my own son, Ethan. I just stood there holding a bottle of wine, smiling like nothing was wrong. But inside, everything was falling apart. I walked to my bedroom quietly while they kept laughing. Not one person, not even my son, said, "Wait, that's my mother." That night changed everything. I couldn't sleep. I sat on my bed looking at the door I had painted years ago when we first moved in. I remembered signing the papers to buy this house. It was my name on those papers. MY money that paid for everything. Ethan had just finished school. Olivia wasn't even around yet. I had given them everything. And now they treated me like hired help. The next morning I made coffee like always. I fed the cat. When Olivia came downstairs, too busy looking at her phone to say good morning, I did something I never thought I would do. I handed her all the keys to the house. "What's this?" she asked, confused. I smiled. "Good luck paying the bills now." Her eyes went wide. "What?" I walked past her, past all the pictures I had hung on the walls, past all the furniture I had bought. I didn't take anything except my purse and my coat. The same coat I wore when I brought baby Ethan home from the hospital all those years ago. I heard Ethan calling my name. He ran after me in his bare feet. But I kept walking. I got in my car, closed the door gently, and drove away. In my mirror, I could see him standing there, shocked. He had no idea what he'd just lost. I moved into a tiny apartment that my Aunt Ruth had left me. It was old and dusty, but it was mine. Nobody could take it from me. For days, I felt like a ghost. I slept on the couch because the bed was broken. I ate simple food. And you know what? Ethan didn't call, didn't text. Nothing. I started thinking about all those years. I had raised him alone after his father left. I worked 2 jobs, cleaning hotel rooms at night and stocking shelves during the day. When my parents died and left me some money, I used every penny to buy us a house. I never asked Ethan for rent, never made him pay for anything. And somehow I became the servant in my own home. I started writing in an old notebook, writing down all the things I never said. About waiting for a simple thank you that never came. About crying alone in the garage. About pretending to be asleep so I wouldn't hear them making fun of me. Then one day, while cleaning out a closet, I found an old metal box that belonged to Aunt Ruth. Inside were letters, papers, and a photograph of a baby. Not Ethan. A different baby. There was a letter addressed to me in Aunt Ruth's handwriting. My hand shook as I read it. Ruth had been a nurse at the hospital where Ethan was born. She wrote that she always had doubts. She saw something strange happen the night I had my baby. The babies got mixed up somehow. But by the time she realized it, everyone had already gone home. She never told me because she was scared. She hoped she was wrong, but she wasn't. The letter included proof. Hospital papers. A DNA test. Everything. Ethan wasn't my real son. My actual son had been given to another family. A family named Jameson. And they had been living in the same town this whole time. I read the papers over and over. I looked at the photo of the baby who should have been mine. His name was Michael Dot. And then something strange happened. I didn't feel sad. I felt ... free. Maybe that's why Ethan always felt like a stranger to me. Maybe that cold feeling between us made sense now. I wasn't crazy. There was a reason. I spent weeks in silence, trying to figure out what to do. I carried this secret like a heavy rock in my pocket. I didn't call Ethan. What would I even say? Instead, I went looking for Michael. I found his bookstore on Main Street. It was painted green with handwritten signs in the windows. Jameson's Books. And there he was. My real son. He was about 30 years old, wearing reading glasses, helping a customer find a poetry book. His voice was kind and patient. I stood across the street and cried. Not loud crying, just quiet tears rolling down my face. I didn't go inside that day. I just watched. And I came back the next day. And the next it became something I did every day. Sitting on a bench nearby, watching the son I never got to raise. While I watched Michael, I also started watching Ethan and Olivia from far away. Olivia posted everything on social media, so it was easy to see what they were doing. And what I discovered made me sick. They were pretending to be successful, but they were drowning in debt. Olivia's business was fake. She didn't have real customers. She rented fancy places for photos and pretended she owned them. She had maxed out credit cards and couldn't pay them back. Ethan had quit his job months ago. They called it following his dreams. I called it foolish. They were building a house of cards. And I was about to blow it down. The first time I talked to Michael, I was so nervous I could barely speak. It was raining. The bookstore was almost empty. He was putting books on shelves, humming a song. When he looked at me through the window, he smiled. Just a friendly smile you give to any stranger. Because that's what I was to him. A stranger. I almost ran away. But I didn't. I went inside and bought a book. He rang it up at the counter. Good choice, he said warmly. Hard to find books like this anymore. His voice felt familiar in a way that made my throat tight. Do you own this place? I asked. Sort of, he said. My parents helped me get started. They're retired now. Of course they helped him. Of course he had support. Michael had parents who took care of him. But they weren't me. And Ethan had me. But he never wanted what I gave. The universe had mixed everything up, and we were all suffering because of it. I started visiting the bookstore every few days. Just browsing, buying books sometimes, making small talk. Michael started recognizing me. Back again, he'd say with that easy smile. I never told him my name. Not yet. Meanwhile, I looked deeper into Ethan and Olivia's life. I pulled up the papers for the house. It was still in my name. Olivia had tried to change it, but she couldn't because she didn't have permission. I could have kicked them out right away, but that would have been too easy. I wanted them to feel what I felt. Slow, creeping fear. Every night I wrote in my journal. Every time Michael mentioned something, a favorite book, a childhood memory, I wrote it down. Not to use against him, but to understand the son I never raised. And I realized something important. Ethan didn't treat me badly because of the hospital mix-up. He treated me badly because he chose to. Because Olivia let him. Because somewhere along the way, he stopped seeing me as someone who deserved respect. But Michael didn't even know me. And he treated me with more kindness in 5 minutes than Ethan had shown me in 5 years. Wasn't ready to tell Michael the truth yet. But I was getting close. First, I had to finish watching Ethan's world fall apart. I called a lawyer. Not for revenge. For justice. I wanted to sell the house. It was legally mine. I had paid for everything. The lawyer was a sharp woman who listened to my story without judgment. "We'll file the papers this week," she said. I signed everything with a steady hand. That evening, I walked past the house. The porch light was on. Olivia sat on the swing, scrolling through her phone with a glass of wine. Inside, Ethan played video games on the couch. They had no idea the ground beneath them was crumbling. When the official notice arrived at their door, my phone rang. It was Ethan. I didn't answer. He left a message. "Mom, what are you doing? Please call me. Olivia is freaking out." Of course she was. The bills were due and they couldn't pay them without me. A week later, Olivia called. I didn't answer her either. She left a message too, her voice tight and angry. "Margaret, we need to talk. This is a misunderstanding. You're putting our lives at risk, and that's not fair." She called it THEI, our lives. Their house. Like I didn't exist. My silence became my weapon. 2 days later, Ethan showed up at my apartment. I saw him through the peephole. He looked terrible, messy hair, dark circles under his eyes. I didn't open the door. He stood there for a long time, knocking softly. "Mum, please don't do this." I stood on the other side with my hand on the doorknob. But I didn't turn it. I let him feel what it's like to be ignored. Just like he ignored me for years. My lawyer finalized everything. The house would be sold and I would get all the money. Every single penny. It was mine. Olivia tried to fight it. She said she helped pay for things. My lawyer smiled and said, "Let her prove it in court." She couldn't prove anything because she never paid for anything. Word got around town. Olivia's parents stopped talking to her. Her fake business started falling apart. She made a video online trying to explain why this was unfair. But people saw through her lies. I didn't post anything. I just kept visiting Michael's bookstore. We had coffee again. We talked about books and life. He recommended a book about grief and forgiveness. "I think you'd like it," he said. I nodded, swallowing the lump in my throat. Maybe someday. I wasn't ready to forgive yet. At home, I packed away old photos of Ethan, baby pictures, school photos, birthday parties where I did all the work. I didn't throw them out. I just put them away. Because the woman who gave everything was gone. And the woman who took her place wasn't angry. She was awake. I hired someone to investigate Olivia's business more carefully. His name was Darren. He was quiet and professional. A week later, he gave me a folder full of information. Olivia's entire business was a lie. She hadn't paid taxes. Her customers didn't exist. Her fancy photos were taken at places she rented, not places she owned. Everything was fake. "If this goes public, she's finished," Darren said. I printed everything and mailed it to Olivia's parents anonymously. No letter. Just a note that said, "Everything you think you know is fake." 2 days later, everything exploded. Olivia's social media went silent. Her website went offline. Her workshop was cancelled. I heard her mother was furious, yelling on the phone, face red with anger. Ethan called me again. "Mum, I don't know what's happening. Someone sent Olivia's parents documents. Did you do this?" I didn't reply. He was finally seeing who Olivia really was, and who he had become. That night, I went to the bookstore again. Michael was closing up. "Back again," he said, letting me inside. "You should just work here." I smiled. Maybe I should. We sat on the floor surrounded by books. I helped him sort through a new shipment. "Why do you come here?" he asked gently. The question caught me off guard. I looked at him. He had my eyes. I hadn't noticed before. "I like the way it feels here," I said. "Nothing's pretending to be something it's not." He tilted his head. "Me too. We worked in silence after that. And in that quiet, something connected us. Not truth yet, but something close. For the first time, I didn't feel invisible. The house sold quickly. I got full price. Ethan and Olivia had 30 days to leave. The day the moving truck came, I drove past. I didn't stop. I just watched from far away as Olivia bossed the movers around, sunglasses hiding her face. Ethan paced the lawn, talking on his phone. I wondered if he ever thought this day would come. Their fall wasn't dramatic. There were no big fights or news stories. But it was complete. Olivia's parents stopped helping them. Her business lost everything. The woman who laughed at me in my own kitchen couldn't afford her expensive lifestyle anymore. Ethan tried to find work, but nobody would hire him. He moved into a cheap apartment on the edge of town. I heard this from my lawyer. I didn't ask. But I also didn't celebrate. This wasn't about revenge. It was about truth. Meanwhile, Michael and I kept meeting. Coffee, book talks, little conversations about life. He asked about my writing once. I'm working on my story, I told him. You should finish it, he said. Stories like that matter. He didn't call me Mom, and I didn't expect him to. We were building something new, something based on choice, not obligation. One afternoon, we walked through the farmer's market together. He picked up a jar of apple butter and laughed. My mom used to make this every fall. The way he said, my mom, it didn't hurt. It felt okay. Because he had a mom who loved him. And I had a son who never saw me until it was too late. Some nights I sat alone, wondering if Ethan was okay. If Olivia still wore her fancy clothes. If they looked at each other now and saw all the mistakes they'd made. I didn't miss them. I missed what we could have been. But that grief fades. Slowly, like shadows at sunrise. It was early November when Ethan texted me. Can we meet? Just once. I stared at the message for a long time. It had been weeks since I'd seen him. But something about his tone was different. It wasn't angry or desperate. It sounded like surrender. We met at a small park with old benches and a dried-up pond. Neutral ground. No memories. He was already there when I arrived, sitting with his hands clasped together. He looked up, and for a moment, he reminded me of the little boy he used to be. I sat down next to him, leaving space between us. I'm not here to ask for anything, he said. I nodded. I just want to understand. I handed him the envelope, the one with Aunt Ruth's letter and all the hospital papers. He held it but didn't open it. I did my own test, he said. After you told me. Same result. I nodded again. I spent weeks trying to figure out what it means, he continued. If I wasn't your son, then what was I? I looked at him. Really looked at him. You were my child, I said softly. I raised you. But you know how you treated me. He flinched. I'm not asking for forgiveness. Good, I said. Because you don't deserve it yet. He turned toward me, eyes wet. Then what does this mean? It means I finally love myself more than I loved the idea of you. The silence was heavy. I thought I was protecting Olivia, he said. But I was just hiding behind her, wasn't I? You let her rewrite the story, I said. And you handed her the pen. He nodded slowly. I wish I could undo it. You can't. We sat there for a while. Two people who shared a life built on a lie. Finally facing the truth. Then he said something unexpected. I hope he's good to you. I looked at him surprised. Michael, he clarified. Your real son. I swallowed hard. He's kind, gentle. Ethan smiled faintly. I guess some of that came from you. We both laughed. Tired, soft laughter. Not joyful, but not bitter either. I don't want to hurt you, he said. But if there's ever a place for me in your life. He didn't finish. I stood and looked out at the pond. Leaves floated on the water like memories. I'll think about it, I said. He nodded. That's more than I hoped for. As I turned to leave, I put my hand on his shoulder for just a second. And that was it. Not closure, but understanding. And that was enough. I always thought freedom was a big word. Something for speeches and celebrations. Not for regular people like me. But when Michael gave me the key to his bookstore that morning, I finally understood what freedom meant. He had called the night before. Said he had something to show me. I walked in and saw a new wooden sign above a doorway. It read, "The next chapter." He handed me a small brass key. "What's this?" I asked. "I'm opening a new section," he explained. "A cozy reading space. A place for community. And I want you to have the key." I stared at him. "You gave someone your whole life," he said softly. "They treated you like furniture. But I see you. You don't have to prove anything to me." Tears filled my eyes. "You don't have to do this," I whispered. "I know," he said. "But I want to." I walked to the door and put the key in the lock. It turned smoothly. Inside, warm light came through tall windows. Shelves lined the walls. A rug sat in the center with a comfortable chair and a small table with a tea set. It felt like a dream. I'd forgotten I had. I turned around, completely overwhelmed. Michael smiled. "Consider it yours for as long as you want it." That night, I sat in the apartment one last time with my old notebook. The last page was still blank. I wrote, "I was a woman who gave until I disappeared. Then I became the woman who took it all back. Not with anger, not with fire, but with silence, with truth, and with the kind of strength nobody saw coming." The next day, I donated part of the money from selling the house. It went to a charity that helps women start over. Women who were dismissed, discarded, and underestimated. Just like I was. Every time I stepped into that bookstore, into the next chapter, I remembered who I was now. Not Ethan's mother. Not Olivia's servant. Margaret Walker. Woman. Survivor. Writer of her own story. Never needed permission to start again. Just a key. And now I had it in my hand. This time, it didn't open someone else's door. It opened mine.